Hi, Vani. Good morning. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can. Welcome. Welcome to SUMAS. Super,
Thank you
super
so much.
happy to have you with us for the career fair. You can see that our students have already logged in. And yeah, I mean, I want to extend this warm welcome and thanks for being a part of the career fair. So students already have an idea about your profile and what you will be speaking about. So the floor is all yours. I've made you a co-host. You can share your screen and you can get started. And I'm
All
here if
right,
you need
lovely.
something.
All right, lovely. We're a small group. Would be lovely if each of you can introduce yourselves very quickly, and maybe I can go last, and maybe a quick round just to tell me where you are and what you're doing, if that's okay with everybody.
Sure, I can start.
Go ahead.
Hi, so my name is Cleo. I'm Greek American and I'm currently in Milan campus of SUMAS. It's my first year. And I'm really passionate in general about sustainability. And that's why I'm really excited about studying in this field. And that's why I joined you today in this call.
Lovely. Thank you for that.
Hello, my name is Alicia.
Hi,
I'm
Alicia.
Hi, I'm half Pakistani, half German. And yeah, I think business and sustainability is something that's like a non-negotiable at this time. And that's why I also joined Sumas. It's my second year. Very nice. And yeah, I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Lovely. Thank you.
Lucinda, would you like to go next? I see that you.
Yes, thank
Yes.
thank you very much. Where's the video? Let me just see if the video. Ah, there I am. Okay, yeah, lovely to be here. Thank you so much. I'm also looking forward to the webinar, but then again, there's always such great knowledge coming out of these webinars. So thank you. It's grateful to be here and looking forward to if there's any other webinars, of course, planned for the rest of the year.
Lovely. Thank you, Lucinda.
Asia.
Who wants to go next?
Who wants to go?
Lada, Giannina? Yeah.
Oh,
Lada, go
yes.
ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Oh, it's really nice to be here as well. So, my name is Lada, I'm Russian, and I'm really interested in this field. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Lada.
Louise, would you like to go next?
Yes, I don't know if my video is working and if you hear any sounds. I'm sorry because there's some construction
We can
right
hear
outside my
you very
apartment.
clear. No problem.
But my name is Maria Luisa. I'm from Brazil. And I just really like care about sustainability. I care about the environment, about protecting the environment, especially within business, because businesses are the ones that actually can cause a lot of damage to ecosystems. So having systems where like people, planet, and profit can work together for like mutual benefit is very important to me. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Janina, would you like to go next?
Hi, so I'm Janina. I'm from Paraguay, and I think like everyone here, we're all excited and interested about sustainability and how we can and contribute.
Thank you.
Archie, would you like to go next?
Oh, hello. Yes, sorry. Can you see me?
Yes, Archie.
Hi. I just joined, so I might have missed, but are we talking about why we're interested in sustainability?
Just a line of introduction, Archie,
Okay.
just so we
Okay.
know we were a
Well,
small group. I saw by the numbers. So
okay.
I thought we can make this a little more personal than what it could be given we are virtual.
Solid. Well, my name's Archie. I was just going to go to university and study real estate, but I spent X amount of time in Canada and fell in love with the nature, and I thought what I want to do with my life is to help to preserve it in some form. So that's why I'm here. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you too.
Haley, would you like to go next?
Hi, my name is Haley. I'm from the Cayman Islands. I came from a very small island that is very dependent on nature, so I just stayed focused when I picked my school.
Awesome.
Jaden, would you like to go next?
Hi, hello, I'm Jaden. I'm from Kenya and doing sustainability management. I think my main focus is just business management, and obviously with the future and sustainability, that's why I joined SUMAS, and I'm interested in getting to know what you're going to share in your presentation.
Thank you.
Lisette, would you like to go
Hi,
next?
I'm Lisette and I'm from Estonia. I've been connected to sustainability and that kind of lifestyle my whole life. So joining SUMAS was only logical choice for me.
Thank you.
Gonzalo, would you like to go next?
Yeah, hi. My name is Gonzalo. I'm from Portugal, and I wanted to go to in sustainability because I had a diploma in management, but I wanted to go a bit further, and sustainability kind of matched my personality. So here I am, looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you.
Natasha, would you like to go next?
Yeah, hi Pooja. Hello, Vani. I'm Natasha. I'm from Basel, Switzerland. So I'm looking forward for this webinar because I'm really interested to know what options and opportunities do we have in the field of sustainability management. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think the last one is ESG sustainability. I don't know who that is. So maybe.
Hello, it's me. My name is Roma, and I'm from Poland, but I'm based here in Switzerland. Regarding your topic, D&A, lately I started to be really interested in the sustainability in sport, and I think this is also a big topic within the sports sector. So I'm looking forward for your insights.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for my spontaneous request to introduce yourselves. Really appreciate it. Just give me a second. Yeah, quick self-introduction. I'll start with a self-description if anybody on the call has a visual disability. I'm sitting in my home office room. I have the Different Strokes logo backdrop that I've created. I'm wearing a maroon green blouse and maroon pink green sari. Sari is India's formal wear. I have a red bindi and I wear glasses and I have shoulder length black hair. The reason we start conversations with a visual description is to ensure that we're being inclusive of disability. So disabilities can be visible or invisible. So for the given that vision impairment is could be sometimes partial disability, sometimes invisible disability. We just tend to introduce ourselves so that the person can know, who is speaking. And if any of you would like, as I'm speaking, I will be sharing my screen as well. You can switch on your auto captions for better comprehension and understanding both the accent as well as the conversation itself. Who am I? And I'm based in Bangalore, India. Very, very delighted to be here because inclusion and diversity to me is more than just a career option. It is something I feel extremely passionate about. So to be able to share what little knowledge I have, give you all a perspective as students of how this will come to play in your lives and in your career choices as you go forward is indeed an honor for me. And Pooja and the rest of the management team, thank you very, very much for having me here with you all today. I didn't start my career in this. I kind of drifted into the space of inclusion and diversity. But when I reflect on over 40 years of corporate experience, I realized that a lot of what I did, almost everything that I did, has come to play to be able to help me build business models that are sustainable around inclusion, diversity, equity, and accountability or accessibility, as you would call it. I started my career as a journalist in India, and I moved from journalism into corporate marketing, corporate brand, employer of choice brand, etc. So I did a lot of brand communication. Uh, from there, I moved into the HR space where I did campus recruitment. If you all know a little bit of the lay of the land, India is home for GCCs and a lot of development and delivery centers for technology companies. So by default, I've been in the technology industry. I'm no technology expert, but so I did a lot of campus recruitment for Accenture. You may have heard about it. I had been with Accenture for about 21 years after working in companies like Intel, America Online, etc., etc. I won't go into the details there. But from there, I moved into global inclusion and diversity. And I just recently retired from Accenture as part of the global leadership team for inclusion and diversity. So, as you all were introducing yourselves, and I was noting the countries you all come from, it's very rich, very, very rich mix of student population here. Very delighted to see this mix, and also felt excited that I have worked with colleagues in Accenture from across almost all these locations, right? So it kind of gives you a personalization to it. That's a little bit about myself. And so when I retired, I set up this, uh, niche boutique inclusion diversity consulting firm. Our primary focus is on working with organizations to help them build their organizational culture that is bias free, to be helping them grow their diverse talent, and to build businesses that kind of combine purpose with profit. So that's in a nutshell what we do at Different Strokes. I'm also a consultant to Disability In, which is a global organization, a not for profit for in the space, particularly of disability. And I represent them in the APAC region. So that's a little bit about me. And if you'll give me a minute, I'm just going to share my screen. I'd like to anchor to some slides so you all have something to uh, refer to as well as I'm speaking. I'll pause there, and anybody, any thoughts you want to share as I'm pulling this up? Right, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, so I just introduced myself. I spoke about Different Strokes, and I've acknowledged that it's really, really a pleasure to be here. I'd like to let me come back on camera. Just give me a second. How do I do that? Am I on camera already?
No, you're just sharing your screen right now.
Yeah, I think your camera turned off. Yes, now it's
Oh
okay.
yes, now they're both on.
Yeah, thank you. Let's start with a discussion, right? I mean, I'd like you all to look at the questions that I have on screen. No particular order. Feel free to just speak up and share your perspectives. Maybe we'd start with the first one. You've all come saying you like to attend the inclusion and diversity session. So, what exactly does inclusion mean to you? And after that, maybe we can just do you can pick any question and just talk to it for a few minutes. It just gives me a perspective of where you all are in your thinking. There's no right or wrong answer, so feel free.
I would say inclusion in my mind. I just think of it as the acceptance of just what is different because people are going to be different from one another no matter what. And if you go into a group of people and they all have the same things and they're all the same way and you are a bit different and you feel like you can't be included in that, especially in like work, that can cause a lot of issues. So inclusion is very important.
Awesome. You hit the nail on the head. And you all, I guess, are, have not had work experience and will be entering the corporate world after this study. Correct me if I'm wrong, but do you envisage working with people only from your region, or do you think you'll be working with people from different countries? I see you're all students from different countries already, so that's kind of a moot question. I'll pause there
Yeah,
anyway.
if I could, like, sorry, speaking again, but I would say like most of us are from different countries. We like very often talk to each other about our differences in our cultures and things like that. I've also like lived in a lot of different countries growing up. So seeing people from different cultures, like one thing about speaking to a lot of different people is that you learn to really be more accepting and inclusive of anyone who is different. If you go to a place where everyone there has lived there for their entire lives and they're very similar, they're going to be a lot less accepting of random, not random, but different cultures that have nothing to do with what they've been taught. So it's very good to communicate with a lot of different people.
Thank you. I think with that, you touched the question three as well. If you look at question four, think about a company you admire and would like to be hired. Does anybody have a perspective? I mean, because this is a career fair, I'm sure you all have your aspirational brands to be targeting. That's what I see when I talk to students, at least back home in India. They're very clear about the kind of roles they want and the kind of companies they want to go to. Anybody wants to speak about who your target companies might be and what kind of company that is?
I mean, for me, I'm personally interested in consultancy in general. I don't really have like a particular company in mind, but I'm pretty sure I'm looking forward to joining a workplace where essentially everybody can like share their ideas freely. There's no discrimination. There's like a lot of shared values when it comes to like I don't know, appreciating everybody's cultural differences because this actually promotes innovation, creativity, and critical thinking in the workplace.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and with that, you kind of, uh, I'd like your perspectives. I know you're all part of the sustainability school. So, what is the one skill that you think is going to be very, very important in the future? It could be anything.
Honestly, I think it would be critical thinking because I think that now that we're slowly becoming really dependent on AI, but like issues all around us are emerging and like we're having environmental issues, we're taking care of climate change and everything that's related to such externalities actually. I believe that we need to like boost our critical thinking and think outside of the box so we can like tackle the problems in a very innovative and efficient way.
All right. Anybody else?
I think the other thing would be a human and more social skills like empathy. As AI take over all these routine tasks, we need to be a little bit more empathetic.
Thank you. Any other perspectives? Okay. That was very, very good input. I mean, you've already laid the case for what I thought I might need to start from a very fundamental perspective. You spoke about inclusion, you spoke about critical thinking, human empathy, inclusion as a way of engaging with people. You're already learning about each other's cultures. So what I share going forward is essentially just therefore will kind of ground you into what you're probably already doing very well, and it'll give you a perspective of how this is likely to play out in the corporate environment. So you made my job that much easier. So thank you for that. Okay. When you look at these terms here on this in this particular circle, what stands out for you all? What are your reflections about these words? They're a random set of words, right? They have some correlation, but not all. What stands out for you all as you look at this?
I guess resilience stands out for me.
Okay.
Because I could assume a lot of these are changing things. And resilience to me is just a very important skill that I guess could help you with things changing, but isn't necessarily, I don't know, it stood out to me.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
For me, I think climate impact stands out for me because if we relay directly or indirectly, it is related to, I think, every other word which has been mentioned here.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I want to add, actually. I think that the most significant here is also artificial intelligence concerning the fears that I think present generation has about AI, in fact, indeed already taking over a lot of jobs. So how do we work with AI and build our resilience in the job market? That I think is significant.
Got it. Yeah,
Perhaps
this kind of
Vani,
some. Sorry, go on.
sorry,
Somebody.
Vani, if maybe just one thing to add to what Pooja said. I would say that when you look at the leadership to understand the strategic vision and what's driving that adoption, the transformation, and of course the ESG and the reputation in the working career that many will follow now. Yes, I mean then it that supports us. How do we believe and how do we implement such leadership expertise in what we need to achieve?
Got it. All the points you all raised are very, very valid. What this kind of, if you look at it very holistically and not as independent terms, what this kind of shows us is that, globalization is already a norm that we're all reasonably familiar with, and the trade borders between countries will reduce even further. There are demographic shifts. Countries are facing shortage of talent because of aging population, stuff like that. Emerging economies, what we used to call the growth markets, or the emerging economies in the past are emerging in the future by 2030, 2040 are likely to be very, very strong economies, and that'll kind of shift the way businesses operate globally. It is a multipolar world, so there is no doubt about that. We're already headed there, and we're getting more and more there. But at the same time, the geopolitical situations are causing a lot of havoc for us, even as we speak. The increasing population in many countries is having, and the blindless use of natural resources is creating a very, very negative climate impact, leading to resource scarcity. If you compare the resource scarcity with, the demographic dynamics, there's also resource scarcity of human resource scarcity across industries, across talent segments, and therefore the war for talent is very, very strong, particularly in countries where the population is very high, And on the other end are countries where population is not enough, and how are you going to draw talent into those countries, right? So that skill shortage is high, and you're as you rightly put it, AI is creating a fear among people on how this is going to play out in the future as we're all focusing on developing our skill sets. So why does this matter? Why does this matter in discussion on inclusion and diversity? At the base of all this, right, whether you're looking at climate, whether you're looking at the kind of work models, artificial intelligence, etc., what is going to stand out is the human factor. And each of us being humans comes to the table with our own set of values, with our own set of principles, with our own culture. So it is going to become a very, very critical aspect of being able to work together as humans across boundaries, across countries, across economic scenarios, to be able to, deliver the best both for ourselves and for the community as a whole. So, which is where skills like, your cultural competence, you all already spoke about it on slide one, cultural competence. What are your human-centric values? How do you build stability in, a changing environment with geopolitical influences, demographics, etc.? How do you innovate? Innovation is going to be very critical. Talent arbitrage. What this war for talent exists, but how are we going to leverage existing talent? How are we going to upskill that talent? How are you going to reskill the talent now that AI is coming to be able to deliver value to organizations? And like you said, generations are changing. The current generation and the generation after yours is no longer, and COVID probably contributed to this, right? We realized as a world that we don't necessarily need to be in one place to be effective, right? The virtual world came into existence, and many corporations, almost every corporation globally, struggled with this. And flexible work options are emerging. The generations that are coming in want the flexible work options. They do not want to be tied down, and that is likely to lead to innovation, right? And people, you're from various countries, you've gone to SUMAS to study like this, everybody will travel globally. The universe becomes like one just room, right? And that's where you focus on future proofing the workforce. If we don't prepare the workforce to deal with all that we are trying to do in the sustainability area, businesses will fail, economies will suffer, and the future is likely to look very, very stark and limited. Any thoughts around this perspective, or should I continue? All right. So, what are the key concepts and theories of inclusion and diversity? So, typically, what has happened recently, excuse me while I just take a sip of water. Increase in the February of this year, right? The world shifted from a focus on inclusion, diversity, equity, and belonging. Um, it's a sensitive topic. Anybody knows about it, wants to articulate what you know before I proceed? Okay. So a lot of the work around inclusion, diversity, belonging, etc., the formal work in corporations started particularly in the Western world. So recently, the Western world, and given that many of the multinationals are headquartered in the West, there was recent governance around, not using, not making reservations for diverse populations, not really focusing on the various segments of diversity, etc. So there's been a lot of stress. And from that stress in the corporate world has emerged words like organizational culture, belonging, etc. But diversity essentially means who is in the room, who are the kind of people who are in the room, what are the various kind of profiles of people in the room. Inclusion is about what happens when you're together. What is the outcome? What happens when everybody in the room gets an opportunity to participate? So we typically say, and you may have heard this earlier, diversity is being invited to a party, inclusion is being invited to dance at the party, right? So it's not just about being there, it's about getting an opportunity for your voice to be heard, for your perspective to be shared, for your creative thinking to get room for development. Equity is about creating an equal, equity-based environment where pay scales match each other. There is a fairness to the system on, how do you adapt your processes, your your all that you do for your people. How do you equate that? How do you create systems that are equitable in nature? That's what equity means. And belonging is what you feel, right? Why people choose to stay. We looked at it in the earlier slide, right? So people stay because, and there is research which shows that today people stay in organizations where they fail, where they belong. Gen Y no longer looks at compensation as the key driver of picking up a job or staying in the job. It's about the feeling of belonging. So that's why in diversity, inclusion, equity, belonging become extremely important and critical to a sustainable work environment. And what are the theories around, how this plays out? One is the social identity theory, because social identity essentially shapes your perceptions, your motivations, your needing to belong, etc. The contact theory brings to play or highlights the biases that we experience. Now, for example, when I came on the call and when I introduce myself, or anytime we meet anybody, we already coming into the conversation with a bias, right? So how do you inherently prevent those biases? How do you stem those biases? How do you remain conscious of those biases and therefore, uh, overcome them to build an inclusive environment? So that's what the contact theory speaks about. Interconnections are all about the human nature itself that needs a connectedness. How do you establish those interconnections to build what we call the psychological safety? Today, psychological safety is foundational to learning and experiences in all organizations. So, therefore, what we're saying is the outcome of having diverse, inclusive, equitable organizations where you have a sense of belonging, um, which is psychologically safe, essentially enhances the engagement, performance, productivity, and profitability of the organization. That's in a nutshell the role inclusion diversity plays in creating sustainable organizations. And this could be any industry, right? I mean, it's industry agnostic, it is size of organization agnostic, it is location agnostic. So all of this is like lies at the foundation of what we need to do to build strong organizations that are looking at both their profit but also being driven by the purpose. So, what is a business case? Like when we spoke about leadership. So, I've had this experience where, you walk into a meeting with senior leaders in an organization, or even as students, if you all are walking in and discussing some of your requirements, it could be accessibility requirements, it could be flexibility requirements, right? The first thing that we hear about, particularly in companies, is what the business case. Let's face it, organizations that are focused on what is the bottom line because they have an accountability to shareholders, right? So they have an accountability to their employees. They also have an accountability to community. But inclusion and diversity goes a little beyond just doing what is morally good to having a sound business sense as well. There's a lot of research in the market, and I've highlighted some of them here, which I can send the links out to you all if you want to read more about these research highlights. So companies with diverse teams in their leadership cadre are 25% more likely to outperform their peers. So when we say diverse teams, it could be cultural, it could be people from different cultures, it could be people from different genders, it could be people from different generations. So that kind of team has is 25% more likely to outperform their peers from a financial perspective. Companies in the top quartile of racial and ethnic diversity are 35% more likely to have financial returns above the national average. And that's where racial ethnicity, I mean, you all would have seen, experienced, heard about a lot around Black Lives Matters campaign that was very, very, uh, prominent in a few years back. So ethnic diversity then became a kind of a requirement for organizations to focus on, particularly in economies like in the Americas, the UK, South Africa, etc. But when you come back, when you go deeper into Europe, you have various ethnic groups. So ethnicity is a conversation that's started to take shape in organizations, even in the EMEA region. If you come further down to Asian cultures, you will find that different countries, depending on who we are either have our own social class structures, or there are ethnic groups that have originally been here. For example, in Australia, Aboriginals is a very, very big concept, and there's a lot of effort now, right from the government, to kind of increase the presence of Aboriginals in the working population. So that's that's why companies that are ethnically focused do 35% better. Gender diverse firms perform 25% better from an average profitability perspective. Disability inclusion is probably one space where there's been a lot of research. Companies that hire persons with disabilities have 28% higher revenue, 30% higher profit margins. Accessibility is a critical component of inclusion and diversity, and that's a separate subject by itself, very, very closely linked to sustainable work. So, accessibility essentially means creating digital platforms or environments that are accessible to everybody, irrespective of age, ability, gender, culture, etc. So there are accessibility guidelines around which companies have to work. And if your e-commerce platform, for example, is not accessible, the loss is estimated at $6.9 billion dollars in annual revenue. People abandon carts. Abandonment rate is quoted as 40% abandonment rate if the website is not accessible. So that's how critically technology is linked to diversity and inclusion. Like I said earlier, 88% of job seekers today prioritize culture. People resign, there's a typical adage which says you join an organization, you leave the manager. And what is the manager a representation of? Its manager is a representation of personal bias, plus an organization systems and processes that allow a certain kind of behavior or culture to take roots and exist. So 45% of employees resign because of poor culture. And if your culture is innovative, statistics also show that there is 22% higher financial performance. So how does this help us really? I mean, these are great numbers to know. This helps in growth and innovation. We started the conversation with you answering my first question about, you said it's all about, uh, you know, uh, being inclusion and diversity, and inclusion is about enabling your creativity. So this clearly shows that the more diverse your organization, it's likely to enable your growth, and teams that are homogeneous are likely to outperform each other, and innovation will be at its highest. In the talent war, it helps you target a whole lot of talent that you probably not even in the consideration list. So it'll mean upskilling, it'll mean reskilling, it'll mean, overcoming bias to identify talent that you potentially might think is not capable of it. How do you reinvent existing talent? How do you re-enable them to be able to contribute to the workplace? Given, we are going towards flexible work, we're going towards part-time work, all these are emerging concepts in the corporate world. So how do you attract and retain that talent? It's also about how do you build your brand if you're looking at it with a marketing lens. One of the biggest aspects of brand building today is around your talent brand. And the second, of course, the other part, if you're in the product space, is around your customer brand, yeah, your consumer brand. So how do you build this brand in the marketplace? So that's kind of a critical component or outcome of being inclusive. um, Risk management and governance, right? How do you reduce your risks? So if you're a multicultural organization, if you're working with, let's say you're a remote organization with, you know, individuals in multiple countries, you're mitigating your risk as an organization in case of any, natural disaster, calamity, etc. That's the first reduction in risk. The second reduction on risk comes around the law of the land. Every country, over and above the sustainability goals, has laws that support diverse the enhancement of diversity in the systems. So, if you're not compliant with the law, for example, Japan has a law which says, you have to hire 2.2% of persons with disabilities in your organization. And if you don't, you're going to pay a heavy fine. Across the board, Europe is very, very uh, tight on laws around disability inclusion. Similarly, with gender for many countries, right? So, how do you mitigate your risk by ensuring your organization is diverse? That's very, very important. The Then, of course, comes the need. The third aspect of risk management and governance is around ESG reporting. Today, there are over, I think, 500 companies in the Fortune uh, to 2,000 companies that report their ESG metrics, right? And this is becoming more and more a need established by local governments in countries as well as by sustainable standards globally. So, how are you reporting your metrics, and how are you therefore leveraging your D&I matrix to metric to support your ESG reporting? So that's again another risk mitigation factor. Last but not the least is your customer and market alignment. In innovation, with leveraging universal design, by allowing for creativity in your advertising, in your product design, how are you leveraging all of this to build market alignment? How are you kind of doing your analysis, your studies? How are you basing your product and the product's experiences or your services experience based on what the market needs, both locally as well as globally? So that's the business case if you want to look at it with a very, very, very pure corporate, what's in it for me organization lens on why diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging are important. Just show you a small case study now, if I may. Tell me if you can hear it or just speak up. Able to hear?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
I'm Sarah Kaplan. I am Distinguished Professor of Gender in the Economy and a Professor of Strategic Management at the Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto. And I am founding director of the Institute for Gender in the Economy. There's been a lot of conversation in the United States, in Canada, and globally around increasing the diversity in organizations, and in particular on corporate boards of directors. And so one of the things I've been interested in is understanding, well, how could we help move the needle on that? What are the systems, procedures, policies, regulations, and laws that might actually help increase diversity? Many CEOs, many leaders really do want to take action, but they don't exactly know where to start. And in part, that's because these problems are super complex. There's many different trade-offs, there's many different demands. So they might say, oh, well, we want more diversity on the team, but actually to do that, we're gonna have to search harder. We're going to have to invest more in recruiting. We're gonna have to invest more in team building. So that feels like really expensive to do, therefore I'm not gonna do it. That's a trade-off. And what I try to advocate around gender diversity specifically, but also other forms of social responsibility and environmental issues, is that these are really innovation opportunities. And that if organizations could think about these challenges not as heavy weights on their shoulders of something that they have to do, but instead exciting opportunities to think about how they can innovate. One example that I give is an organization called McCarthy Uniforms. Small company in Canada that sells uniforms to schools and also for construction and other things like that. And the new CEO comes in for a turnaround. The company's been kind of run into the ground by the prior folks. And so she analyzed everything about how they went to market and their products, thinking through what does this mean from a gender lens. And she discovered a number of things that are really important. So for school uniforms, they were always sold with the hems undone because they figured the mother somehow at home was going to hem the pants or the skirt for their child, depending upon how tall that child was. Well, one of the things she discovered was no one has time for that anymore. So they innovated by creating a hem tape that would allow families to quickly fix the clothes for the kids. And that led her to win many more contracts with schools because the product was just going to be easier to use for the customer. What does this gender-based analysis do? The company is supposed to take 4 years to do the turnaround. She does it in 2 years because she has applied this lens in ways that allow her to innovate in the product and service offerings, how she goes to market. So that's one example where you use the challenge and you don't say diversity is one thing and my product and go-to-market strategy is another. You bring them together and suddenly you have a more powerful company that does much better financially than could have been anticipated.
That was a good summary of what I just articulated as the business case. It looks at it particularly from the gender lens, where you're looking at a product, you're looking at the company's profitability, etc. But in a nutshell, that kind of to me, it's a beautiful summary of all that we discussed so far.
Honey, I just
I've
want
got
to add something, if you don't mind. I
Yeah.
want to tell you, I mean, I'm super impressed to see this video because we generally look at DE&I always, we look towards bigger companies, and this case study of a small company that could really use a female CEO to turn their, their profits around in just 2 years. I mean, I think that's very interesting. And it's a good case for small companies because for me, when I meet small companies, when I'm doing consulting with them, and when I point out that your diversity is, your DEI score is really bad, they always say we're a small company, when it doesn't matter. And I think they're really missing the point here. When they say that they're a small company and they use that as an excuse that DE&I is only for big companies. So this is really, really interesting case study. Thanks for
Yeah, I find that very true too. And in fact, one of the core things that we focus on at Different Strokes is to work with startups. It's easier to lay the foundation for D&I in the initial stages. It's very hard, complex to bring it in as an afterthought into large organizations because uh, it then gets, that much tougher to influence the culture. With you, Pooja, on that completely.
Thank you.
From a segment lens, typically when you hear D&I, you will hear of all of these. Every day there are new segments that are thought about. Caregiving, for example, is now emerging as a segment. But each of these segments, um, there are various aspects of the work kind of work you do. But at a holistic level, if I have to look at it with the corporate lens and from a organizational structure, influence perspective, every function has a role to play in defining what the actions are. Your challenges for each of these segments could be different. So organizations construct programs, connections, etc. around all of these. Gender, for example, we struggle with mid-management, career level people in the larger organizations as the biggest issue other than the board of directors, right? So various initiatives that we focus about on gender. Disability, upskilling becomes the most challenging thing because disability to date is still seen more as corporate social responsibility than as a business imperative. Pride, policies come into play here because there's a lot of support you need, psychological support, uh, support for medical help, surgeries, lifelong medication, etc. That policies play a very big role in the pride space. Generational diversity. Now, how do you, for example, work with somebody like me who's just retiring? How does a young management graduate like you, how are we going to coexist in an organization, in a team? Ethnicity, I referred to that earlier. Cross-cultural diversity, extremely important as newer economies are taking shape. Many projects in large organizations come to a standstill. Delivery gets delayed because two groups of people from two different cultures have not figured out how to work together. So cross-cultural diversity, analyzing your cultural quotient and being able to create project teams that are able to, map to the cultural sensitivity that is required is very, very critical. Faith, I won't step into it. It's too deep, complex for a short call like this. Supplier diversity, very important to you all from a perspective of, sustainability. How are we empowering uh, suppliers from diverse segments? How are we enabling them to go beyond being small boutique shops to be able to expand and scale their business? And how are large corporations contributing to leveraging these suppliers to contribute to build that economy? So that's a whole storyline by itself, very, very linked to what sustainability. Code levers, therefore, are leadership. The psychological leadership voice becomes very important. You already spoke about it earlier when we were exchanging notes. How leadership advocates for diversity is going to determine a lot around the culture of the organization. Safety creates opportunities to, create employee resource groups, safe spaces for conversation, enhancing retention. Accountability and talent processes kind of go together. Accountability is about, weaving inclusive behaviors into your performance measurement criteria. Accountability is also about the metrics the metric you produce to publish your sustainability reports and so on. Talent process, if you look at the talent life cycle from recruitment, from sourcing to retention to exit management, how is diversity panning out across these segments? That's a whole study and reporting mechanism by itself. And what are the key moments you celebrate? How do you respect and acknowledge each other's culture? These are the core levers around which all of IND works. And it is, like Pooja, you said, it is not an HR responsibility. It is the responsibility of leadership of every function within the organization to be able to contribute to it and to make that like a foundational element of what the work they do. We measure inclusion and diversity through various scales. There are measurement tools available in the market, but the typical aspects of measurement are around representation, pay equity, what is the hiring and growth velocity. For example, people from the disability segment do not grow as fast as people who are fully able-bodied. So how are you going to address that to enhance retention? Your engagement and belonging scores typically come out of your culture surveys and so on. How how have diverse teams impacted the performance outcomes, the outcome, finally, your financial outcomes of your organization, universal design, accessibility, the story that we just saw? How has this one small design decision changed, inclusive decision changed and impacted your financial outcome? That's a very key metric that we measure. And supply diversity and community. I spoke to that already. And with that, given where, what I spoke about till now is all around corporates, organizations, but we started the conversation with what inclusion means to each of you. There are many ways you can look at it from your career perspective. And if I have to look at it with the SJD's lens, Sustainability Goals 2030. If you glance at this, I know we are only 5 minutes, so I won't drain the time on this. But if you look at each one of them, if you look at poverty, hunger, well-being for all ages, equitable education, they're all linked. And if you wear the inclusion, diversity, and equity hat, they all, come to play together as a holistic contributing factor, which is how you will start reporting it. You might wonder, what does water and sanitation, um, what else? Sustainable biodiversity, forests, land, etc. How does that pan into diversity? That's where your socio-economic models start coming in. How are you empowering? So you might be focusing on water, sanitation of all, um, saving the forests, organic farming, whatever you do, right? How are you equipping people? How are you training people? What is a diverse segment of population you're bringing in to be able to take those actions and thereby contribute to the development of that economy as well, right? So that's the where the linkage to sustainability, corporate citizenship, and diversity comes into play. Sustainable consumption, production patterns, manufacturing, your infrastructure. I spent at least an hour yesterday, in the last couple of days, looking at this and drawing the relationships, and I could just visualize every line item having a link to what I would call a very strong business case for diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging. So this is one part of the story. The other part of the story is, how are we as individuals, right? How are we? You're going to go out there into the corporate world. You're going to be continue to be students in the campus. How do you make your behaviors more inclusive than they probably already are? And what happens to a human when we don't feel included? We've all experienced it, right? At least once a week, we all experience, I'm sure, some feeling of not feeling included. How do we overcome that? And that needs to come with very consciously stemming bias. I have a video I want to show you all, and this is an video that we created in Accenture. It's it's no longer supposed to be online, but I found it, so I felt justified in using it. And I'm going to close with showing you that video. But I took this picture specifically and put it in here because look at the subtle, I don't know if this is conscious or subconscious. When you look at this picture, you can see picture of individuals from different cultures in here, right? So everything from your collateral, your website design, your brand information has to speak the language of diversity and inclusion. And I thought you were doing it beautifully on your homepage, so I just put this in here. I'm going to move to that video, and then I'll pause to get your reactions for a minute before we log off. It was still there on Facebook, so I'm feeling confident about using it. You may have seen it. Yeah, so I know we have 2 minutes over time. Sorry about that, but thank you all very much. If there was time, I'd have loved to answer questions, but I'm available on email if anybody
Oh, we
wants.
can. If there are any questions, we can. No problem. We can, because I mean, I personally want to tell you what a wonderful video. No, I have not watched it, and it really made me cry. It's such a
Yeah,
beautiful,
it does that. Yeah.
so powerful that I think that every one of us could relate to one or the other message there at some point in time, even if we have a lot of young adults here in the group. I'm sure everyone felt not included. And it kind of is a reminder that we need to stop this. So, I mean, I must thank you so much, Vani, for this wonderful address. And I do open the floor if someone has any questions, because we can take questions for the next, I don't know, 2 to 5 minutes. If someone has questions, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask your question.
No, I kind of agree with you, Pooja. I do resonate with the video. Just sharing a quick experience as well. I used to have a manager who says, Jenny, you can go ahead and present first because you need to go pick up your kids later. I mean, he was being considerate, honestly, because he says that, I know you need to leave early, so you can go ahead and present to the team first. And, I kind of felt I need to talk to him about it because at the end of the day, it starts with us, right? I say it's not just about me presenting first, but I would also like to hear what the rest has to say after I leave. So he took the feedback very well and he made the effort. He said, you know what, I actually thought I was being considerate by letting you present first because I understand you need to leave early, but I didn't get it that, you actually wanted to sit in through the whole meeting. So he actually changed the meeting to an earlier timing, so that I could actually sit in for the entire thing. So I thought that was nice. And the fact that it starts from us, right? We also need to speak up as well and not just take it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'd like to share something that happened to me a long time ago when I was 22 years old, when I started working for a company, and I had just recovered, or I was recovering. I'd made good progress in recovering from a serious mental health condition at that point, and I was not, and I made very good progress at work, and work helped me a lot to get better. And I remember I didn't get a promotion and I didn't get a raise, and I asked my boss, why did I not get when all my other colleagues got it? And he cited the fact that, oh, we supported you, we hired you despite the fact that you had these conditions. And that has lived on. It has lived on until now, that I think, I mean, ever to even talk about feeling not okay, that just created that, I would say, a big scar, So I think we really need to start taking diversity seriously, the disability and diversity, because people, even with disability, can do wonders. I've seen this in my own team. They can do wonders even if, because they have such a different way of thinking that maybe people who are not disabled or normal from, the world's perspective can do. They have such a different way. They have different superpowers, I would say, that we need. We don't really know that, but we need it. So yeah, absolutely.
And if you look at it, if you design for the 20%, you're designing for the 80%,
Yeah.
right? Because look at whether you do Alexa or whether you look at Google Maps,
Yeah.
essentially the root of it all lies in disability, right?
Yeah.
But is everybody using them? Answer is absolutely yes, right? Is it benefiting everybody? The answer is absolutely yes, yeah. Having persons with disability in your design phase is so important.
Absolutely.
Recently, I was in a conference, and we have, there's whole guidelines on how do you do events, how do you that are accessible. There tons of material on all of that. But for the first time, I saw that there were buffet tables laid at height where wheelchair could access it. A wheelchair user could access it, right? These are the small things. It's not budget heavy that organizations and institutions, whoever we are, can do to make things inclusive. And looking at this also from a career lens, right? It's not, one is the personal angle. From a career perspective, yes, you could look at a career in the DEI space, but business leaders, irrespective whether you're joining a infrastructure company, whether you're joining a manufacturing company, all organizations looked to leaders to understand these behaviors, because they're the ones who are going to take the product or the service to the customer or the client. And if it's very, very important that the skill is something that's rooted in every industry, every function.
Absolutely. Now, I really, really loved your address. I think it touched upon so many important aspects, the business case for DE&I to begin with, and also a personal case to think about it from an inward personal reflection perspective, because you cannot isolate them. You need a business case, you also need a personal case. Like Jenny said, I mean, that was really interesting for me. The perspective that, okay, the manager is being considerate, but does not know how to be considerate. He or she must ask for feedback. If you want to be considerate, you need to be considerate on the terms of the person you want to be considerate for, not on your terms.
But
So that was really nice. Thank you for sharing, Jenny. That was really interesting. All right. So if anyone else does not have, I mean, if you don't have any other questions, we can pause. I will pass on Vani's email to all of you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach. I'm sure she will be really happy to connect with you and discuss it with you one-on-one. Thank you so much, Vani. It was a
thank you all. Really, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
And
much.
good luck. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ani. Bye.
Bye.